So Sabrina's story, she died after eating French fries that were contaminated with dairy products. So this isn't peanuts, but another food allergen. The resulting law required schools to design emergency plans for students with anaphylactic allergy. And there was a film made about her story as well. And I think this particular story, as I was saying, also is an example of how lobbying by parent groups, by patient groups, have had a lot to do with making peanut allergy a big issue. And this is one particular lobby group that has been involved in this. This is an American group, Food Allergy and Anaphylaxis Network, or FAN, founded in 1991, currently has a budget of $6 million per year. And what's interesting about FAN, and incidentally, the anaphylaxis wasn't actually in their original name, that was added later, and that kind of gives you a flavor of what FAN is all about. Unlike groups focusing on food additives or processed foods, FAN has been able to work effectively with the American Academy of Allergy, government agencies such as the FDA, and the food and restaurant industry. And I argue that the relationship between these parties is symbiotic in many ways. FAN emphasizes the sorts of food allergy that the AAA believe are legitimate, and takes the focus off less controversial or more controversial notions of food allergy that critique the food industry as a whole. The labeling of potential allergens and changing some food production procedures is less cumbersome than eliminating a large number of chemicals from the food supply. Plus, the hypoallergenic foods or hypoallergenic foods can be also seen as a marketing ploy. And I'll read this out. This is the label that came out of the FDA's Food Allergen Labeling Consumer Protection Act of 2004. And basically, we have a list of ingredients, and then this is a crucial bit for allergy sufferers. It says, contains wheat, milk, egg, and soy. And this is just one example. So what this law basically enforced is that if one of the 8 really potent allergens is found in a product, it has to be listed. So these are, we have peanut, milk, egg, shellfish, tree nut, soy, wheat, and fish. And there's a similar European law that adds a couple other things, including, interestingly, sulfites, so going into the food additives as well. So if you have a look at that, and then compare that to this. And this is a Canadian Mars bar, and as you can see here, there's no peanuts. There's a no peanut sign there. And Mars actually in Canada embarked upon a marketing campaign in a few years, 2006, where the whole point of their TV ad and their billboard ad was that their products were produced in peanut-free facilities. So really, this is, if you're a peanut allergy sufferer, this is the chocolate bar for you. And even the American and Canadian Peanut Councils. So this, to my mind anyways, is going quite a bit further than what the FDA requires of food manufacturers. And even the American and Canadian Peanut Councils have, instead of contesting peanut allergy, have begun to work with FAN and the AAA to prevent accidental exposures and to reduce the demonization of peanuts. Now, I think this reflects the considerable bad press that would emerge if someone was, a little girl, for example, died after consuming a Mars bar that had traces of peanuts in it. So, and now I'm concluding here. So what I'd like to conclude, or the way I'd like to conclude, is by doing a brief comparison with asthma, which is another allergic disease. And so we've got this whole, these safe spaces that have been created by those interested in protecting peanut allergy sufferers from peanuts. But in the case of asthma, which some of the historians of asthma have noted, what they have emphasized is perhaps instead of focusing on developing better drugs for asthma, we should look at the environments in which asthma occurs. So making safe places and spaces for asthma sufferers. Well, this certainly hasn't happened. And what I'd like to ask is, well, why hasn't this happened? Asthma is a much more deadly disease than peanut allergy. It's much more widespread. It's a bit of a canary in the coal mine sort of disease in the way, in that the sort of toxic substances in the air that an asthma sufferer might react to might also be something that people with compromised immune systems react to. And yet still, peanut allergy sufferers seemingly have gotten more out of their endeavors than asthma sufferers. And so, is it the potential cost? Are there less compelling stories about asthma? Who's the villain in asthma? You can't really make a demonic peanut in the same way you can't make a demonic asthma causer or whatever in the way you can create a demonic peanut. What's going on? Well, I think what's really going on is what Mark Jackson has called the political economy of allergy. And that is, the unifying of patient groups, industry, medical associations, and even football clubs in creating a narrative that works for everybody, that shuts out more controversial and more damaging ideas from the debate, and which, if you're an AC/DC fan, prevents you from enjoying your peanuts at an AC/DC concert. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so very much. It was very rich. I have to, of course, begin by saying, of course, that Canadian football is not real football.
Uh-oh.
That's another conversation for another time. Questions?
I'm all excited now.
Yes.
I thought that was brilliant. What I'd love from you is, I thought it was fantastic. What I'd love from you is the pitch for peanuts, because I think there's something behind this. Obviously, peanuts are a fantastic food source.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us the flip side? Why should we eat peanuts instead?
Well, I think, yes, you can. I would be resistant to kind of going on the other side of the fence and just saying, why you should eat peanuts. In one way, I will say why, because they're excellent sources of protein, fiber, fat. They're an easy way to give your kid lunch. And you have to remember that in North America, or at least in my part of Canada, there aren't cafeterias in most schools. Parents are expected to provide a lunch for their kids, and I think that they are a very flexible and useful source of food. Now, having said that, I'm not saying that Commonwealth Stadium shouldn't ban peanuts. Well, I kind of am. But what I'm saying is, okay, why have the peanut allergy sufferers done such a good job of creating safe spaces for themselves? Why is this? Why haven't asthma sufferers? Why haven't people that believe that food additives cause hyperactivity, which is another one of my research interests and areas? Why haven't they been able to convince the restaurant industry across the United States to have effective labeling for the big 8 allergens? Why haven't all these other groups? You could even argue that there have been some stunted efforts in some of the Canadian provinces to ban trans fats, for example, but they haven't gone as far as Sabrina's law. So it's more that I'm interested in. How has this risk been created and constructed? And I think it's important to look at why, in order to maybe one, tools for other potential campaigns, but also to take the say the emperor isn't wearing clothes. What are we doing here, banning peanuts from Commonwealth Stadium?